Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Peter Forbes, Managing Director of Navigo. Today I want to share with you how you can radically improve your employee onboarding practices to save time, money, and make a great first impression with your new hires. The solution, as most of today's best HR practices are, is using technology to help enhance and streamline a very human experience. There is a clear advantage to organisations who improve their antiquated onboarding process. Candidates expecting a better experience, your back office will love you for it, and the technology is now available. These are just a sample of onboarding stories that people experience each day, and we haven't even covered the HR back office experience in preparing, approving, sending and processing offers. Here are a few stats and quotes pulled from recent research and media reports. It's a pretty topical issue, as the future trend of the Australian workforce is slowly moving from traditional industries like manufacturing towards knowledge-based jobs. We are also seeing a tech-savvy generation entering the workforce and more focus from HR on talent attraction and retention. So what I'd like to do now is take a quick poll of our audience to see what your main issues are around onboarding. We've got a few people in this webinar, so Rob, could you run that poll for us, please?
Okay, so the quick poll, what are your main issues with employee onboarding? So just select one or more of the following options. So losing candidates because sending offer is too slow, bad first impression for the candidate, employee not ready for day one, provision for new employee, or back office headaches for candidate paperwork process.
Hopefully we've covered the major pain points. So once everyone's put their choices in, we can show some results.
Just at 75%, so just a few more to go. Okay, so we'll just close that off now. I'll just close the poll and we'll just share those results for you. There you go.
Look at that. Okay, so that's interesting. Back office, provisioning for new employees. Kind of even out over those bottom four, isn't it, really? But back office headaches. And look, that's definitely something we see when we're talking to our customers. That back office component is so painful. Just, you know, the amount of paperwork involved. Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Rob. I will just try and get back to my webinar if I can. Hopefully you should see my screen again. Excellent. Okay, so we've looked at some issues around onboarding. Let's look at now how you can improve, but let's look at a real example. So, Deakin University, it's a elite university based in Victoria with campuses in Melbourne, Warrnambool and Geelong. With over 44,000 students and 3,600 staff, they do over 450 onboards per year, and that's excluding their casual workforce. Deakin is renowned for excellent teaching and innovative course delivery, a student-focused culture, and being accessible, helpful, and friendly. Deakin were keen for their onboarding process to reflect their brand and their culture. So rather than me explain it, let's hear from the actual staff at Deakin involved in this. Rachel Roos is HR manager at Deakin, and she explains here in this recording what their onboarding process was like.
All of our onboarding was done manually. So we
Can't hear it.
prepare a contract by entering the necessary data into a template in Word, and we would also manually prepare any other associated documentation.
Can't hear it.
There are things such as Unisol super
Okay,
forms
hang on.
and ATO forms and
Sorry, I'm just aware that no one can hear that audio. Is that right? Is that right, guys?
Sorry, just very soft, Peter.
Okay, what I might do is just change the output on that audio. Actually, I know what to do.
All of our onboarding was done manually, so we would manually prepare a contract by entering the necessary data into a template in Word, and we would also manually prepare any other associated documentation and gather up things such as super forms and ATO forms and pop them all together. After they went around and were signed by all the appropriate people, we would then pop them in an envelope and send them out to our new employees. Then we would wait for paperwork to be returned. Sometimes it would get lost or it wouldn't be returned on time. Or people would start and we wouldn't have all the information that we need for them because quite often they'd wait until their actual start date.
Okay, so let's take a look at what Deakin actually implemented. So this is the email when a candidate is now sent a job offer from Deakin. This replaces the traditional in-the-post letter of offer. An SMS can also be sent at the same time they get this email. Notice the email is formatted to Deakin's corporate look and feel and can come from the line manager. To review the offer, which includes the formal employment contract, the candidate simply clicks on the link in the email to log in to the candidate portal. Here's just a quick login screen for the candidate. Notice that we even default the email address in. It's a small detail, but an onboarding solution is all about making it easier and quick for the candidate to review and accept their offer. So this is a candidate portal upon logging in. The employment contract is the most important document they need to review, which contains the critical info about the role. The employment contract is generated dynamically based on a number of Deakin business rules, including location, full-time or part-time, and type of employee they are, whether they're an academic, general staff, or an executive. Support information also includes details about the campus they will be working at. Again, this is generated dynamically based on a business rule on their location. The video shows real employees talking about why they love working at Deakin. And this is something they already have, but it's perfect for an online onboarding solution because it shows the candidate some real employees talking about what they love about Deakin. It's perfect. So once they've reviewed the basics of their offer, they're now ready to answer some information in the questionnaire. So the questionnaire is where you collect the information that you need to hire someone, their personal details, their dependent information, superannuation, tax, and other information that may be specific to your organisation. This replaces the traditional multiple forms that you typically need to fill in. All the info needed is gathered in one place and there's no need to duplicate information. For anything that needs more information or explanation, you can add supporting documents. So let's look at some of the info required in the questionnaire. Here is some of it. Notice in the personal details section with Deakin, they want to know if you've worked or been a student at Deakin before. If you do indicate yes in any of these fields, a new field will appear on the form asking them to enter their employee number or student number if the candidate does know it. It's something, look, it's something, these are the sort of the discrete details that make an onboarding solution better than a traditional paper-based onboarding because it can capture little nuances that you can't capture just by sending out forms. Once they've completed the questionnaire, all the required docs are generated, including the employment contract, the tax file number declaration, and any other additional documentation. Also, any policies they need to accept are here as well. The candidate simply has to download each document before they can click the I accept button. Once the candidate has accepted all that, they will then get sent an SMS with their verification code. This is just an additional layer of security to make sure that the person in the portal is really the person we're sending the offer to. So once they get that verification code on their mobile, They can enter that in, and that means they've accepted their offer. Once that happens, in the background, there's a whole bunch of trigger notifications that then notify the back office or the relevant parties in that organisation that the candidate has accepted. The candidate then has downloaded copies of that documentation and of their offer, but of course they can come back anytime into the candidate portal to view their information or any of the supporting documents. So let's hear from Rachel again to see what the candidates think.
Really great feedback from our candidates so far. So we've actually been calling candidates afterwards to try and get an idea of how they found using HROnboard and their experience with it, and the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive. You know, people think it's great. I think it was very easy to use, very intuitive. We've had very few calls for support from people who were using it, and if we have had calls, there have been more questions around their employment offer and some of the supporting information required. So the feedback's been really good.
So what about the back office? What has changed in the back office? Let's hear from Rachel again.
I think having everything together in HROnboard has been great, whereas we used to use a few different processes to pull all that information together. So certainly creating efficiencies with that. Another great advantage is being able to log into HROnboard and see where an offer of employment is at. So it's if somebody's away, the person who's handling that contract's away, you can go in and see whether it's at the candidate or it's at the approval stage. So it makes it really easy to track where things are at when you've got a whole team of people working on these things.
Okay, so that's the Deakin experience. So let's take a bit more of a look at HROnboard and what it offers. So HROnboard is a best-of-breed employee onboarding solution, proudly developed and supported by Navigo here in Australia. With HROnboard, our aim is three things. First off, an awesome candidate experience, ensuring that that first touch with the organisation is as impressive as possible. A second aim is a painless back office. This is minimising the manual effort, paperwork, and the communication to the right people about preparing that candidate for day one. The third aim is quick results. HROnboard is a cloud-based solution with a per-onboard pricing model, ensuring return on investment in a matter of months, not years. So let's take a look at some of the features of the candidate experience. So the first one is, as you've already seen, that the candidate receives their offer notification by email and by SMS. They can log into a branded portal which is branded to your company and contain videos, documentation and supporting information. HROnboard also has a sophisticated form engine that can allow it to have smart forms that are based on your business rules. And crucially, this allows capturing candidate information once, not having the candidate enter in the same things multiple times. And the whole onboarding experience can be tailored to where that employee is located or the type of role they're taking on. And finally, they can review and accept their offer all in that online portal. So as a best-of-breed product, we also want to make that back office as streamlined as possible. So let's look at some of the back office features. The first feature is a smart offer assembly. So we can automatically create ready-to-send employment contracts and packs based on your business rules. Typically what we find is a lot of organizations may have 12 or up to 20 employment contracts that are basically the same with just slight variation to clauses and conditions. With HROnboard and with a modeling engine, you can bring that down to one employment contract with a number of permutations and variations. The second feature in the back office is an approval process. So there can be up to 3 levels of internal approval can be configured before that offer is sent to the candidate. Thirdly, the supporting material. You can attach your own supporting videos, policies, and any other company documents and forms that you may need the candidate to accept or at least read before they start with your company. And fourthly, there's the notifications. So automated notifications can be sent to various departments to advise of resource requirements and to ensure everything is ready for that employee on day one. And we find a lot of that also includes what we call employee provisioning. That's sending out notices to IT and other departments to make sure the equipment and the access that employee needs is ready for them. So HROnboard is Australian cloud software, and it's hosted here in Australia. And as a cloud solution, what that means is everyone runs the same version of the software, and you enjoy the new features as they come out. And as HROnboard is a relatively young product, we're definitely on the process of releasing a lot of new features on a monthly basis. We also recognize integration is important, both to get candidates into HROnboard from maybe your recruitment systems and then to send that information out to payroll. We have a couple of options for integration. We have some REST-based APIs which allow you to programmatically connect to HROnboard to push and pull information from it. And we also offer adapters to some of the popular recruitment and HR payroll systems that allow either an API or a flat file integration. And we're working with some of the more popular HR payroll systems in Australia right now. Of course, security of employee information is paramount, and we have industry accepted practices for protecting and backing up your information. Going back to that integration, at Deakin, they will have an adapter for candidates coming into HROnboard automatically from their recruitment module in Alesco. We believe a good solution also needs local support and service. And with HROnboard, you're backed by Navigo, who are experts in HR systems and HR operations. Part of this service and support includes support for legislative changes to the tax or super requirements. And during your setup, our consultants analyse your current onboarding process to work with you to understand how that will fit in an online environment, because there usually is a little bit of change in terms of moving from a manual onboarding process to an automated one. So let's hear back from Deakin about what are the benefits they got from HROnboard.
Stage, as I said, we've only been using it for a month or so, but it's been a really positive experience for us. So it's something that we'd be looking to try and extend into some of our other processes if we can.
Okay, so finally, what I want to show you in today's webinar is that improving onboarding practices will save you some money. So let's run through the numbers on the savings. The example you can see is approximately using an organisation that does about 400 onboards per year and assuming an ongoing software cost of $40 per onboard, which is what we'd charge for someone with that level of onboards. So let's run through the numbers. And you can see here, we've kind of split it into a couple of areas. One is about preparing that offer pack or candidate pack, and that includes some physical costs of the mailing and the printing, and also the time spent. So we've assumed it takes about 2 hours to prepare an offer pack for a candidate in a manual onboarding experience. Once that pack's been sent out, we then see the offer pack processing. So this is a recruitment office handling the response and actually preparing that into the payroll system. And for each of these activities, we've assumed around 2 hours per onboard. So that's a recruitment officer handling, preparing the pack and any actual questions they receive from candidates, and then manually processing that. You can also see here we've said assumed about 2 hours for new hire provisioning as well. So this is a communication to the other departments. Finally, we talk about new hire lost productivity. So this is a number of hours lost on day one or during the first week that a new hire may have in terms of filling out forms and doing things really that they could have done before they arrived. What we then do is compare that to a software-based onboarding. You don't eliminate these steps on an online-based onboarding experience, but you reduce them. So we're assuming about half an hour for each of those steps. So what you can come down to here is a cost per new hire. So with manual onboarding, you're looking about $241. And again, that's assuming a person's time is worth about $40 an hour, $45 an hour. As you can see, with the software-based onboarding, it's dramatically reduced down to $60 per new hire. As you extrapolate that out with the new hire lost productivity, your total cost per new hire is around $152 for an online-based onboarding solution. Now, if we then take into account the setup, which is typically for somewhere that size, you're looking at about $15,000 to $16,000, and that $40 an onboard, what you see here is a comparison which equates to about 71% cheaper than a manual onboarding solution. Over 3 years, that's a significant saving. So even in the first year, you'll see a saving with an onboarding solution. So for everyone who's attended today, we're offering a free consultation on your onboarding practices. Once we understand how you're currently sending out your employment packs and your onboarding practices, we'll be able to produce a business case that clearly outlines the case for an onboarding solution. The business case document we have, which you'll receive, is unbranded and contains the return on investment figures, and is something you can adapt and modify for your own purposes. We think there's a clear ROI argument for an online onboarding solution. So here's a quote from the Aberdeen group on their study on onboarding. What we find is the research tells us that there's only about 13% of companies use a fully automated onboarding solution. This means you can clearly differentiate yourself from your competitors. There's a clear time and money savings argument for organizations who improve their integrated onboarding process. But aside from the time and money savings, I think it's also about the image your company wants to portray. I think candidates are now expecting a better experience, and your back office will love you for it, and the technology is now available. So thanks very much for your time today. I hope we've given you some ideas and understanding of new ways to old problems. I'll hand back over to Rob for any questions you may have, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Peter. So I suppose the next stage is just to open the forum to any questions that you may have. If you'd like to just type your questions through, we can then get Peter to respond to them. So yeah, just pop them through the questions section of your control panel again. You can also raise your hand in the control panel as well, whichever you prefer. Okay, so we have got a question coming through here. This is from Grant Purdy. Grant says, what about providing tools to assist in provisioning?
Oops, sorry, I'm just unmuting myself. Can you hear me? Yep, cool. I was unmuted. So tools in provisioning. So as far as where HROnboard, where we see our scope is ultimate candidate experience and getting that person ready for day one. As far as we go at the moment, the tools we provide is mainly notifications to those relevant groups. So I think at Deakin we're sending email notifications to email groups in their IT department. What we can also do is if anyone's into BPM type software, we can also add messages to a workflow to provide those notifications. But you know, the scope of where HROnboard is being the best at that onboarding experience. The provisioning side is something other systems generally cater for. I hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Peter. We've got another question here. This one's from Linda Barton. Does HROnboard facilitate transfer of data into new hire, or Deacon in brackets?
Hi, Linda. Not yet. Okay, so what we, as a cloud-based solution, we have APIs both for the incoming and the outcoming data. For us to work with other systems, they also need a programmatic way of either pulling or pushing that information. Most HR payroll systems in the Australian market have a way to push new hire information into them programmatically, except Alesco. And that's something we're working with Talent2 on at the moment, and we're hoping enough customer groundswell will happen such that they'll create an API for new hire information. Of course, there's always the traditional sort of hack and code method, but we're trying to stay away from that because we want to develop adapters in integrations that work for everyone, not just one particular customer.
Thanks, Peter. And thanks for the question, Linda. Michael Rush, you also had a question there. I think Pete might have sort of already answered that already. The question was, I noticed that Deakin use Alesco. So what level of integration do they have between HROnboard and Alesco at the moment?
Okay, so what we have is, so we're as we're encountering each system, we've got some integration technology that we're using in HROnboard that facilitates the transfer of information from an on-premise system. With Alesco, with pushing information into HROnboard, it's easier to do that because it just requires an extract from their recruitment module, say in Alesco. So we've built a recruitment extract for Alesco to get those candidates automatically into HROnboard, because really it's just once a vacancy has been filled and a candidate has been identified, on a nightly basis we can pick those candidates up ready for processing in HROnboard.
Thanks, Peter. Hope that answered your question, Michael. Next question is from Mary. Can you provide a copy of these slides so I can discuss this product with management? I think I can answer that one, Pete. Yep, that's not a problem. We'll get that out to you, Mary. I think we've got your details when you registered, so we can come back to you with that one. The next question, with the API integration, if a client had an applicant tracking system, would the personal details be automatically populated during onboard with information collected during the initial application in the ATS, the applicant tracking system?
Yeah, and that's a huge advantage. Yes, what we want to do, as much information as you've captured about that applicant, we want to pre-populate in HROnboard, because that makes the candidate have to fill in less information. It's crazy from a candidate perspective that you already know my name, you already know where I live. Why are you asking me for all this information again? So as much information as you've captured about that candidate, we can pre-populate into HROnboard so the candidate doesn't need to fill that in again. They literally just confirm it.
Thanks, Peter. Next question, how long does it take to implement?
So pretty quickly. The biggest roadblock in implementation is really the process change internally for the organization. To give you an example, with Deakin, I think from start to finish it was about 6 weeks. So that's from initial touch to go live with the solution, and I think that was even delayed by 2 weeks, just because of some internal other projects going on at Deakin. So it's a really quick implementation. Because it is cloud-based software, there's nothing to install on your side. Typically we take the approach of the first stage is get the candidates going on HROnboard first, and then look at integration as a second stage, because most of the benefits and the savings is just moving that onboarding to an online platform.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Linda Barton. As part of the consulting, will Navigo work with our respective IT departments, for instance, auto-generation of passwords, email addresses, etc.?
Yes, yeah. Look, that's something we can do. Typically, some of that doesn't happen. The auto because that won't happen until the candidate formally accepts their offer. That's usually the starting point of when you want that candidate in your identity management system. But we can work with IT. So because what they'll want to do usually is auto-generate the email address, probably the employee number, although that can come from the payroll system. But yes, we can do that.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Nigel. Can it work on a tablet?
Yes, it can. So what we found is candidates will probably use something like a tablet device. When I say a tablet, like an iPad or a Nexus or something like that. Although you never know, people might be filling in all their information on a phone, on a smartphone. But yes, it is mobile device friendly.
Great, and I think this is our last question that we've got on the board here at the moment. This is from Peter. Does it integrate with SAP?
Yes, it does. So SAP has a wide open API around their HCM product, and you can push new hire information into SAP via their APIs. Yep.
Okay, there's no more questions on our question board, so I think we might wrap it up there. Pete, was there anything else from you before I wrap up?
No, I'd just like to say thank you everyone for attending. If you've got any further questions, don't hesitate to give us a call.
Fantastic. Thanks, Peter. Thank you. Just like to echo those words from Peter. Thank you very much for your time today. We know you're all very busy. I hope you've learned something new about onboarding and how we can make it a little bit more efficient for you. We've recorded the webinar and we've got those slide packs for you as well. So if you'd like to give us a call with any other questions, by all means, the number there just in case is 039879 4060. That's all on our website as well. We do have another webinar coming up shortly, which is on our workforce modelling and organisational charting tool, All Plus. So we're sure to let you know the details for that. Have a great day, and thanks again for your time.